Hey everybody, welcome back to Dakota Does Dressage. I want to share this exercise with you today that I rode a few weeks ago. Again, it's out of the 101 Western Dressage Exercises book that I've been using. And this was a really great exercise. It was exactly what we needed for the day because when I pulled Dakota out of the field to get him cleaned up to ride, you can tell how much mud we had in the field that week. Just take a look at how deep his pasterns were in the mud out in the field. I felt so bad for him. I was just scraping mud off of his hair, and he did get a bit of a wash before I turned him back out into the mud. But anyway, he was just kind of not himself when we were tacking up. He was really looking around. He was a little tense in the cross ties, and I think part of it is that this pony has come to the farm, and he's in the quarantine lot, which is right behind the barn where I usually tack up Dakota. So he can kind of see right into that lot, but the pony is like just down this little hill, so you can't quite see in there great, but he knows something is back there, and he just was a little concerned about it. So a friend at the barn walked into the doors, into the aisle when we were tacking up, and Dakota kind of freaked out a little bit. He looked like a barrel horse ready to take off, and he was still attached to the cross ties. Luckily, he didn't rear up. He didn't get himself into any trouble, but he got pretty spooked and wound up. So I was like, great. This is going to be a fun ride, and it was kind of windy and cold, so I wanted to ride in the indoor, which he's not a super huge fan of any indoors that I've ever ridden him in. He really prefers to be in an outdoor arena where he can see what's going on. And I had the doors shut because, again, the wind. And so he was just a little tense and on edge in the indoor. Not 10 minutes into our ride, someone comes in a big truck. You can hear it on the video. And then they start up the tractor, which is just on the other side of the indoor where the wall with C is. So the tractor is running in there, warming up, and Dakota's just kind of like, what is going on? So he was distracted. But this exercise was the perfect thing for us to work on because there's repetition with this. It brought him right back down to a relaxed state, and it kind of helped me keep my composure too, because honestly, like, my worst fear is being on a horse that just loses their mind and spooks, and I end up getting hurt. With this exercise, it's pretty simple to do. I've got 3 standard ground poles set up here. They're lined up, and you just serpentine across them at the walk, which sounds simple enough. We tried it a few times and didn't have the best results. I really had to pay attention to my steering and my timing, and so it challenged our connection. And then I was also trying to get a bit of a tighter serpentine. So I'd recommend for warm-up, maybe just get like 1 lap across, 1 loop across. Don't try to make it too tight from the start. Build yourself up to that. So, I got like a couple good turns as we went through the exercise where he really did start to pay attention to his feet. And he was picking his feet up and knocking the poles a little less. And I could tell that his back was really starting to loosen up. I could feel the change in his gait. And the walk again, just from what I hear, from what I watch on other dressage channels and videos, the walk is one of the hardest gaits to train. And I don't know, maybe if you feel differently, let me know in the comments. But I would agree with that it's been hard for me to train Dakota at the walk versus the trot. I feel like his trot has really come a long way just over the summer and through the fall, but the walk hasn't really changed too much. And I can, even in this video, early on, start to see that he's still kind of pacey at the walk. He's not really utilizing his hind legs well enough to get up under his body and lift his shoulders and really allow himself to stride forward with a nice long elastic walk. So I think this exercise does help with that. He has to really think about where his feet are. It's loosening up his back. And whenever I would ask him for a longer stride at the walk, before this exercise, he would either get pacey or he would just break into a trot. And with having to go over poles, plus having to serpentine over the poles, he really couldn't go that fast. He had to keep himself down at a walking gait. So I think that's helping to train it a little bit too, just to make him think, okay, she doesn't want me to go faster. I just need to do something different with my legs. And I'm hoping he's going to catch on to this idea that it's, really using his body more effectively, and allowing his legs to get under himself more. So for that, this is not just a physical suppleness training tool, but it's also a mental suppleness training too. We had a few instances here where he kind of gets a little nervous in the indoor. What's going on? I hear noises. What's that outside the door? Oh my God, is that pony going to run in here and eat me? And I was able to just redirect him back over these poles, do our serpentines, and he would just come right back to me. And at the end, he gives me, he's like stumbling over these poles here at the end because maybe he's getting a little too relaxed, but he gives me this really deep blowout. He's got his head way down. Like, he is just super relaxed by the end, which is amazing considering at the beginning of the ride, I was like, what is going to happen? It doesn't happen often that I come off of Dakota. It has happened in the past, but I was like, is today going to be that day? Other things I liked about this exercise is that I feel like it's easy to modify. So, I'm not a fan of setting anything up in my arena that I feel like this is what I have to work on the entire ride. There's no other way that I can utilize the setup for other things that I want to work on. So this one was great because you've basically just created this giant long ground pole. So when I wanted to take a break from the serpentine, I just let him trot over the ground pole. If we were working on the lope and we had enough space in here, I'd lope him over the ground pole. I could stop him and side pass him over the ground poles. We did a little bit of training on our center line straightness. So I would bring him down sometimes directly from A to C, but not every time. I would kind of shoot in between C and those other poles in between the mirrors. So I could use these ground poles as a guide for my straightness. That was a nice way to modify it as well. I can use them as a barrier. So if I want to practice doing like some boxes, some tight turns, I could ride them right up to the ground pole so I'm perpendicular to the ground poles, and then just do more of a square turn to practice again for when we're in those corners of our test. So I feel like this is a great one to set up. Just in general, in your arena, it's kind of like having a second rail there that you can work over top of. So I'm a big fan of this exercise. I'm really enjoying going through all the exercises in the book. If you're interested in the book, I will link it down below in my description. And with that, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!